Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you a very basic breakdown on how to measure countertops correctly. This is for our team members that are going into people's homes, that are doing it just for a very basic measurement to give a detailed proposal on actual square footage for whatever product they may be selecting on those countertops. Okay, so first thing is that I always want to measure in inches. I'm not going to measure in feet and worry about a conversion where a mistake could be made or somebody else is taking my measurements and they might make a very basic addition and subtraction error or multiplication error. So realistically, inches is where we want to be. So the first thing I'm always doing is when I go into a project, I'm always going to take a basic sketch, okay? No matter how complex it is, the kitchen, or vanities or showers or fireplace, I'm going to make a very basic sketch and I'm going to do a bird's eye view. And it's that bird's eye view that I want to keep, okay? So if I'm looking straight down on the kitchen and I've got an island right here, okay? And then in addition to that, I'm going to have another piece of countertop right here. All right, so all of a sudden, kitchen's taking place, taking shape. I'm going to have another piece over here. And then let's say a small piece right here next to the refrigerator. And we've got a cooktop over here, CT. And then we have a kitchen sink right over here, all right? So this is the basic breakdown. Walkway, 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 what have you, it doesn't matter. So when you measure, you're measuring technically from the front of the cabinets. So in our industry and in our area, we're using as an overhang 1 1/2 inches, all right? Well, most countertops are going to be 24 inches, or I'm sorry, most cabinets are going to be 24 inches. So when the cabinets are 24 inches and we're adding 1.5 inches because we're measuring 1.5 inches to the back of the drywall line, so where the countertops would actually touch the drywall line, we know that that piece is going to be 25 1/2. So essentially, the cabinet box starts right there and goes back. So 25 1/2 for this particular size, and that includes the overhang. Whether if the overhang they currently have is correct or wrong, we always want to use 1.5 inches as that. So 25 1/2 from there to there. That's it. First part done. Next thing we're going to do is we don't need so much the inside measurements right here, because what we always do when we measure for countertops is we want to measure the outside perimeter of everything, which would include that and that, okay? So in including this measurement here, let's say it's, I don't know, 75 inches long. Next one up here we're going to say is maybe 60 inches long. And up top, let's say 58 inches, all right? And I'm measuring from here to this corner point here, all right? Now, if they have backsplash up, the size of backsplash that they have installed may play a factor, all right? Because the measurement here to here, I'm anticipating going all the way to that drywall line in order to get the best possible measurement, all right? So here to the drywall line. Next, I'm gonna go from here to get the next measurement. So boom, boom, and then from here to get the next measurement. And let's say they have a drywall of, I don't know, travertine with, of course, mastic and grout and everything already installed before we demoed the old thing. Well, I know right off the top of my head, just because of experience, that's going to be about 1/2 inch. So I want to make sure that I'm measuring all the way, not to just where the backsplash ends, because the backsplash will sit on top, the old backsplash will sit on top of the countertops that are being taken out. So I know I want to make sure that I'm going all the way to that drywall line. So just remember drywall line all the time as a factor for your measurements. If somebody has Formica countertops, and let's say they have a Formica backsplash, or maybe one of those Formica 4-inch backsplashes, those could be as much as 1.5 inches thick. So I want to account for that. And if I just measure to the let's say they had a Formica backsplash, and I measured from the front of the cabinet to the back, and I didn't make it all the way to that drywall line, my measurement's going to be maybe 24 inches, so it's going to be off. And you add a couple of inches here, a couple of inches there, and so forth, it can dramatically change your proposal for the customer as they're making their decisions on what to do. So anyways, I digress. Let's keep moving. 75, 60, 58, and we know that this is going to be 25 and a half. We just are going to say it's 25 and a half. This may be 25 and a half, the distance from here to here. However, we don't know, so we still want to measure it just to make sure. Now let's just say, for instance, it's going to be 25 and a half. That's great, because at 25 and a half, basically we know this is all 25 and a half. So I'm going to give you a little bitty shortcut just to help with this kind of scenario to make it fast. I know 75 and 60 and 58, these are all going to be 25 and a half. So I can add up 75, 60, 58, and that'll give me a number. And then since it's the same width all the way through, all I've got to do is multiply it by 25 and a half, multiply that number by 25 and a half, and then I'll get a new number, and then I'll divide that number by 144. So it's a lot quicker. Instead of doing this piece 75 times 25 and a half divided by 144, it flows much quicker. Okay, but that's one aspect. Now let's say this little bitty piece over here is also 25 and 1/2, and let's say it's 40. All right, then we've got the cooktop area countertop, and this is 25 and 1/2, and let's say this is 100. Well, if all of these are 25 and a half, I'm rocking pretty quickly, because I can go 40, 100, 75, 60, 58, and I can go really fast and decipher that. That's an 8 there, but I can go really quickly and decipher that all of these added up are going to be 275, 20. 275, so 328. 328 times 25 and 1/2 is going to give me a number, and that number then will be divided again by 144. That will equal the square footage. All right, and I'll break it all down on the side just so you can see it. But you know, realistically, the aspect of measuring can go really fast if you're using factors, and experience will come into play, because you'll be able to, you know, let's say this is going to be, instead of 25 and a half up here, it may be 25 and 5/8. Well, I'm not going to worry about 1/8 of an inch, and if I need to, I can round up a little percentage in order to factor for that. So next thing is we're going to take this island. Let's say this is going to be 45 by 70. All right, pretty big island, so that's nice. And with that being 45 by 70, I'm going to do the formula again. The formula is length in inches times width in inches will equal, and then divided by 144, and then that'll give you square footage. So length by width divided by will give you a number, and you just divide it by 144, and then that's your actual square footage on your project. And that's also referred to just flat out actual square footage. Now, something to kind of keep in mind is that as you go, not every project is going to have unique pieces. So, or just crazy pieces. They're going to be kind of similar, but every once in a while you get something that happens. So I'm going from the longest point to the longest point. That's the measurement I want to take. So if I went from the shortest point to the shortest point, it would not do me very good, because I'm essentially missing out on all of this square footage right there. And I want to make sure I account for that, because nobody gets more pissed off than a customer who you go back and say, oh, I was actually off by 10 or 15 square foot for something that you could easily avoid by measuring the longest points to the longest points on each given piece. Now let's say this kitchen's a little bit different, okay? Let's say, and I've seen some pretty unique ones, let's say we kind of have the same concept here. It goes out, but then it goes something like this. And that gets pretty unique, and let's say they got a sink right here, and once again, 25 and a half, we're just gonna go ahead and call it that. We're gonna call this 25 and a half, right across here going this way. And then up here, we're gonna call this 25 and 1/2. All right, so as we're calling that all 25 and 1/2, as far as the depth, also known as the width, and let's say we've got this number here, and it's gonna be 100 inches, all right? And these are all in inches again. So the next point is what's the longest point? So I'm gonna find the longest point. It may be from here to here on this piece, because I'm just breaking it off. It may be here to here, whatever the case may be, or it could be the same. Whatever the case may be, let's say it's, I don't know, 60, all right? So at 60, and it's this side, but over here it may be, because of the angle, it may be 55. I don't know, maybe so, maybe not, but I'm taking this longest point. I'm gonna disregard this one because I wanna take the longest number possible. The next thing is how do I account for this? Well, I don't wanna use the shortest piece. I wanna use the longest piece, so let's say we're at 70. So I know we're all the same width here, depth, and so then I'm gonna take 70 and 60 and 100, and then what that's gonna do is give me a number, so that would be 230 times 25 and 1/2 gives me a number, and it's that number that I'm going to divide by 144, and that will equal my square footage again. So I get this actual square footage for that. Now, with us, you only have to have the basic measurements, because what we do is all of these measurements get uploaded into our system. So you're not actually having to do the actual math, because our systems will do all of that for you. You're just gonna plug in this number, plug in this number, plug in this number, after you've sketched out in our system the shape of the countertop. And of course you gotta plug in that number, gotta have it. But same thing with all of these others. And in our system, we'll be able to do this bird's eye view so that when we go to print, and we can show the customer specific measurements in addition to the stone they selected, where it's got certain parts of movement that create a wow effect that helps us get some energy and emotion going so that our customers are excited. And that excitement is what we want to achieve. But we can't get all of that going if we're messing up on basic measurements. So let me go a little step further. While you're out there, you're going to want to be able to calculate your edging profiles. So if I know that on this island I've got an edge there, I'm going to put a little X, an edge there, and there, okay? Well, over here, let's say I got a wall, and right here, let's say I've got a wall. There's not going to be any edging profile there, but I do know right here I'm going to have an edge, right here I'm going to have an edge, right here I'm going to have an edge, and maybe up here I'm going to have an edge. So I can dictate where that is, but I've got a wall here, a wall there, and a wall there. Just there's no edging profile, it's just a raw cut going up against that drywall line. Now, over here, I've got an edge there, and let's say it's a wall there, and a wall there, and a wall here. I'm only accounting for this. So if I'm only accounting for the length of this, I'm gonna use linear footage to calculate that. And once again, our system does all of this for you, but I at least want you to have an understanding on how it works. So linear footage is basically going to be the length of this, which is 100. So 100 divided by how many square foot, or how many inches in a foot? Lengthwise, 12. So we're going to divide it by 12. And when we do that, it gives us the opportunity to have the actual linear footage of that particular area. Now on this one, the island piece, the linear footage is going to be 45, 70, 45 again, 70 again, and then I'm going to add that up, and it's going to give me basically another number that 14, 18, 22, 23. So 230 linear inches. So then I'm going to divide that by 12, and then that's going to give me linear footage again. So all of our systems will do this for us already, but we at least want to make sure that you understand and have a concept of that. Something else, we have a wall here, maybe an edge here and an edge here. Right here, we have a refrigerator box. Okay, so there's a refrigerator there. We don't want to put an edging profile like we would have here or here next to the refrigerator. We want to have what's known as a flat polish. And so we're going to put an indication on there that it's going to be a flat polish. That flat polish will just, it'll be a finished edge, but it won't have an edging profile, a traditional edging profile on there. Well, measurement-wise, when you're out in people's homes doing measurements, these measurements are based on actual square footage for a proposal that is being made and presented. Now, when we come out to do templating and measuring, we're coming out with lasers, we're coming out with a lot more equipment that, one, double checks the information that has been given to you, to the customer based upon your measurements, but two, makes any corrections. Maybe they have some unusual stuff happening with their cabinetry. Maybe they're not level, maybe they're not straight, maybe they just want to add some unique things. So we're going to go out and we're going to make everything perfect, and we're going to do what's known as cut measurements. So with those cut measurements, with the laser that produces, that gets uploaded into our CAD system, it will make it, you know, awesome to with 1 264th of an inch. So it's very precise. But we want to make sure that we start off on the right foot with the customer and the proposal, so that there are no surprises as we move forward with, you know, each customer's dream of you know, replacing their countertops and backsplash and everything like that. So let's talk backsplash since we're already on this. Backsplash is essentially the same thing. A lot of people tend to get off track with backsplash, but what happens is, we know that, let's say we're doing tile. We're going to do tile on the backsplash. We know that's 25 and a half, and that's 100, okay? And this was, what was it, 50? So we have a wall here, a wall here, a wall there, and a wall here. I'm only going to do this one piece, but all I'm going to do is just indicate that we're doing backsplash. And I'm just putting lines right there indicating that the backsplash is going up there. But I already have countertop measurements, so I already know that the length of this backsplash is 25 and a half. And then I just need to measure the height, okay? So you're gonna go length, I don't know why I did it for, but I did. You're gonna go length times height, and these are in inches, and that'll give you a number, and then you just divide it by 144. And that'll give you the square footage of either this piece of backsplash, or if you do the combination where you cluster it all like I did previously, you'll be able to do all the calculations. But let's say this particular one is 18 inches tall, and we know it's going to be 18 all the way around, 18, 18, 18, and 18. So I know it's 18 inches all the way around, so I'm just going to cluster this really quickly. 25 and a half, that counts for my piece here, my backsplash here, and then I'm going to go to 100. That accounts for the backsplash here, and then I'm going to go 50. That accounts for the backsplash here, and then I don't remember what that was, maybe let's say 40. So 40. That accounts for the backsplash there. Now there's no backsplash, that accounts for the splash there. There's no backsplash there because there's actually a profile edge that we're going to be putting on there that the stone's going to have. So there's no wall there to put backsplash on. Now I can also say, let's say this piece is 18. So I know it's 40 wide by 18. Technically I could just throw that other 40 on this, and I could just keep adding up. Let's say there's splash on all of this actually. So 18, 18, and 18 again. Well, I know 25, so I'm going to add another 25 and a half on there. I know 100, I'm going to add another 100 on there. And this again is 25 and a half. So there, I'm just adding all of this up. It's going to give me a number. Let's say it is, I don't know, 4,500. Let's say it's maybe 400. So 400, and I'm going to go times How high is the backsplash? It's 18, it's 18, it's 18, it's 18, it's 18, it's 18, 18, everywhere, times 18 inches. So 400 inches times 18 inches. All I'm doing is the length times the height. That's going to give me a number. Let's just say 48. I don't know. It's much more than that. And then that I'm going to divide it by 144. Now don't use my math because I'm just pulling numbers out. But the formula is what I'm just wanting you to understand. So this is the length and this is the height. And I'm just multiplying those, getting me a number in here. Once I have this number, I'm going to divide it by 144. And that number that comes out of that will equal the actual square footage of the backsplash that is actual square footage. Now, actual square footage on a backsplash is what we bill customers when we are actually building a new backsplash or installing a new backsplash. And new backsplashes are going to include certain aspects. So I want to make sure that I talk about these aspects when selling, backsplash, but that's another video, so we won't go into that. But one thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that, let's say this backsplash is maybe 50 square foot, all right? So at 50 square foot, I want to make sure that the customer knows this is actual square footage that they're actually being billed, but on actual square footage, I know that I'm going to have a huge waste factor depending on the type of material. That waste factor for a basic material can be as high as 15%, maybe 16. It will fluctuate depending on the craftsman that is actually installing that project, okay? So if they're using some kind of unique mesh or there's so many different things right now, certain glass, certain types of patterns, the list is endless. There's literally tens of thousands of different backsplashes. But the thing is that as you get into some more unique things, the waste factor may increase. It may be 20%, it may be 25%. So it really plays a factor on the material the customer is selecting. So what I want to do is at 15%, the material that I'm going to need for that project is not going to, it's going to see, let's say I'm going to need 58 square foot at 15%. Or at 20%, realistically, I'm going to need at least 60 square foot to do that project. And at 25, I may need like 64. And don't check my math, but just to kind of give you an idea. So I'm buying this much material, respective of which material it is, based upon actual square footage measurements. Now, what I like to do is that when we're in home, because there are so many options, I really don't get into selecting a backsplash because we're doing the countertop presentation, and that's typically what we'll sell, but 90% of the time people want a new backsplash, so we want to make sure that we provide that service. So if I know that their waste or their actual material we're going to need is, say, 60 square foot of backsplash material, then I want to know that I need to put an allowance on their purchase order to ensure that they get that opportunity. Now, I may put $10 down, I may put $5 if it's just a really cheap project and they don't care about the material. I may put a lower dollar amount, but it's a way for us to move from the purchase at that moment back into the showroom where they can see a plethora of options and already have money allocated toward that, and maybe get a credit back if they choose something that's basic versus something that's higher end or designer or something in that sense. So you may do $10 a square foot, you may do $15 a square foot. There's some really unique things that are coming out of the East Coast and West Coast where, it may be $40 a square foot. It really plays a factor on what the demands or the expectations are of the customer. So most of the time I want to be in this range right here. So I may put, a $600 allowance on there for something as large as 50 square foot. I would say the average of our area, you're going to be about 25 to maybe 35 square foot as backsplash, actual square footage on a backsplash. But, $300 for something like that, $400 is very reasonable for a selection. And if they're going with a basic stone, they may actually get half that money back because they've chosen something that maybe only costs $5 a square foot, because we're billing them on the installation of actual square footage, but material square footage, we just separate it, so make it easy for them. Okay, so I hope that helps give you some understanding on basic measurements. It kind of looks like a mess up here, but once again, disregard my math, but I just want to give you some ideas on how to measure, whether if you're measuring for a customer in home or walking them through the measuring process. I'll see if I can get some actual footage of me just breaking it down to give you a better concept of it and everything. If you have any questions, feel free to type them out, comment, and of course, I appreciate it, and I will talk to you a little bit later. Thanks.